Not to alarm you, of course, we must tell you that this boat has life-saving equipment for everybody on board. Life rings, life rafts and life jackets are stored around this boat, clearly marked with a cream and green. The crew, of course, is fully trained or we wouldn't be here, and in the unlikely event of there being an emergency, all we ask is remain calm, remain seated, from us. That's your short safety announcement. Is everybody happy?
Yes.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as we make our way up the river, we do like to keep you happy, or the case may be. We like to share with you some of our local knowledge, point out a few of the places of interest as we go, and give you a live commentary. We do have fitted on these boats by the company an electronic commentary machine, but it's a bit boring. There's a lot of company adverts. Get back when we talk ourselves. Are you happy with a live commentary today?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll try my best. It's all I can do. I'm not a commentator. I'm a captain here on the river. If I make any mistakes, bear with me. We'll start just behind us on your right, the Tower of London, of course. Over 900 years of English and French history inside the tower, a lot of it very gruesome. The main part of the tower, the four towers in the middle, known as the White Towers or the Norman Keep. They date back to the time of William the Conqueror, 1078. There's 21 surrounding towers. I don't know if you're visiting the Tower of London on your stay, but if you don't get a lot of time, just walk around the outer perimeter. There's a lot of history written up on the wall. It won't take you that long, but it'll take you a few hours if you was to go inside. On your left here, we have a large grey warship, the HMS Belfast, the largest light cruiser ever commissioned by the Royal Navy. It weighs 11,500 tons. Saw action all throughout the Second World War, but they moored it here permanently in the 70s. Now part of the Imperial War Museum. You can go all over the ship today, and it's well worth doing. You can go from the engine rooms to the captain's bridge, even up to the radar there. This was the first ship of our Navy to have a radar. But we didn't want our enemy to know we had this technology. So we sent a rumour around Europe telling everybody the British could see very well at night because they ate lots of carrots. I'm sure you've heard it said before, if you eat carrots it's good for your eyes. So saying this started as propaganda, a rumour in the Second World War. On your left hand side here, the Shard, 1,017 feet. It's the biggest observation platform here in London. We do have a hotel and some apartments, a casino and a restaurant in there as well. As I say, you can go to the top of that building and look out of the window. You pay £30 for that privilege. It's a lot of money, isn't it? We do know how you can see London's skyline for free. Have you heard of Google? Yeah, but you might not have heard of this building just behind us on your right. It gets wider towards the top. Nicknamed the walkie-talkie, on the top floor is a public garden, and it is free of charge for you to go up there. Go on the internet, type in London Sky Garden, their website, and you can book in advance. Save yourselves a lot of money, you'll thank me later. And ahead of us, London Bridge. This is it, ladies and gentlemen. Just think, some of you have travelled thousands of miles to see this. I'm sorry to disappoint you. Remember, it's not this one that made it so famous. The first one was built in 43 AD, and probably the most famous London Bridge was completed here in the year 12, here for 622 years. And can you hear the bells there on the left? Southwark, third largest place of Christian worship here in London. Inside there is the Harvard Chapel, named after John Harvard, the founder of the Harvard University, Massachusetts. He was baptized in there over 400 years ago, the son of a local butcher.
Wow.
And ahead of us, the Cannon Street Railway Bridge. There is many interesting bridges across the Thames. This isn't one of them, just an old railway bridge. I suppose it's interesting to say, it's hard to believe this bridge is 30 years older than Tower Bridge. Wouldn't believe that. Ahead of us, the next bridge, Southwark Bridge, opened in 1921. London's least used bridge. We don't see a lot of traffic up there, and when we do, it's generally buses, coaches, lorries and taxis, etc. The approach roads of this bridge are well hidden in the back streets of London. But as I said, it's called Southwark Bridge. Southwark is the area of London on your left. In Ace, this is where you would come to be entertained. But you'd find illegal entertainment in this area, like cruel sports. That's bear baiting and cockfighting, bare knuckle boxing, gin palaces, gambling games, and houses of negotiable affection. It was all going on there on your left. The only thing that remains is the replica of an old theatre. You can see a white building with a thatched roof, the replica of Shakespeare's Globe Theatre. Opens only throughout our summer, they reenact Shakespeare's traditional plays, all played out in their traditional style. When it's open, they fly a flag from the flagpole, so you can see the flag there today. So there is a performance on this evening. Years ago, this was like a movie poster. They had different coloured flags, a red flag, a white flag or a black flag, whether it was a comedy, a tragedy or a historical play. I went brain dead then. Here we have the Millennium Footbridge. Follow it to your right. You can see my favourite building here in London, St Paul's Cathedral, opened in the year 1710. Some years to construct, which seems like a long time, but in the 16 and 1700s, that was incredibly quick. The height of St Paul's is easy to remember, 1 foot here, 365 feet. And you can walk to the top. I've been up there. Just above the dome is the observation platform. There is one problem, 528 problems, the stairs. As I say, it's a long way to the top. It takes about 35 minutes to walk up there, 30 minutes to walk back down, and about a week to recover, but the memories last forever, don't they? Ahead of us is the Blackfriars group of bridges. The first one is a railway bridge, followed closely by a road bridge. Between these two bridges, we'll see just red columns, which is all remains from the first railway bridge that spanned the River Thames, designed by Isambard Kingdom Brunel. It was called the London, Chatham and Dover Railway. If you've been on a journey anywhere in this country, the chances are you've been on, under or through something that Brunel built. He was a very famous Victorian engineer. And what's a name? Isambard Kingdom Brunel. That's a mouthful. His father was also an engineer, and he was called Mark. Wasn't quite the same. On your right here, the white building with a green sloped roof. Today a bank owned by JP Morgan, but originally this was the City of London School, where many of this country's former statesmen and politicians got their early education. You can see a lot of work going on your right. This is all part of the Thames Tideway Tunnel, a super sewer that is being dug beneath the river. Of course, we have a sewer already. It's Victorian, and it was built when our population was just 2 million. We're now closer to 10 million people living in Greater London. The Victorian sewer cannot cope. The sewer we have at the moment runs underneath the road here on the right-hand side. Wherever you see these green lions' heads, that marks the Victoria Embankment. The Lion's Head years ago was used as a flood indicator. Police officers that patrolled the Thames was told to keep their eyes on the lions. Should the water ever reach the lion's mouth, they would close the underground systems, the metro, in fear of flooding. Today, of course, we have the Thames barrier. The flood risk isn't so high. But we do have an old famous saying here in London. Join in if you know it. It goes, if the lions should drink, then London would sink. If the water goes up to the main, London goes down the drain. If the lion's head is completely ducked, then London is truly flooded. Not all poems rhyme, ladies and gentlemen. Here on your right we have a little boat there, the St Catherine. It's hard to believe, about 40 years ago, this was the royal barge, Whenever the Queen and royal family members used to travel on the Thames, or foreign dignitaries, this was the boat they used to use. They moored it up here quite some time ago. It's a floating restaurant, and you couldn't imagine any of our royal family members travelling on a boat like that, could you? Well, maybe Harry. Up ahead of us, we have the Waterloo Bridge, known as the Ladies' Bridge, constructed throughout the Second World War by a mainly female workforce. So this is the Ladies' Bridge. Well done to the ladies. And true to form, the ladies chose a very expensive stone to build the bridge. It's built with Portland stone, which might be expensive but easy to maintain. You see, every time it rains here in London, which I know isn't very often, the face of the bridge gets a thorough cleaning. Compare the face to the underneath as we go through, and you'll see exactly what I'm saying. Many famous buildings in London are built with Portland stone, like Buckingham Palace and St Paul's Cathedral, to name just two. On your right here, Cleopatra's Needle, 3,500 years old at least. It's the oldest thing you'll see here in London today, unless you go to the Napa and look at dinosaur bones. It was presented to this country in 1819 after Admiral Lord Nelson's victory over the French fleets and Napoleon during the Battle of the River Nile. This was always built in pairs, and the sister needle to this one is actually in Central Park, New York. And ahead of us, the Charing Cross Railway Bridge. Cross is like an X, X marks the spot. If you're ever out of London and you see a sign telling you how many miles it is to this famous city, then it is measured from here, Charing Cross Station, just on your way. And we like to wave to people as we go through. Are you going to join in?
Yes.
Yeah. Come on, waving's the same in all countries, apart from Mexico. Look at the size of the triangle. They don't always wave back to us. If they don't wave back, that means they're from London. On your left-hand side, the London Eye, 450 feet tall, 135 metres. Now the 5th largest observation wheel in the world, still the biggest in Europe. From the top, you'll see about 25 miles in all directions. Has anybody been on this great wheel? Yeah, did you enjoy it? Yeah, good, most people do. They say, as I say, 25 miles in all directions. It took me a long time to pluck up the courage to go on the London Eye. I'm a little bit afraid of heights, but I did it. It was the start of last year on Valentine's Day. I went in the evening and took my girlfriend. As you can tell by now, I know how to wow the ladies. We had a nice 15-minute journey up to the top. When we got to the top, of course, we was above the City of London, the lights of old London town. Call me old-fashioned, I thought that was quite romantic-y, and asked her to marry me. Well, thank you. It was quite emotional. I even started crying when she said no. What am I going to do? See what I did, I went round again. Persistent. And ahead of the boat on the right, the last building I'd like to point out for you today, the Houses of Parliament, the seat of the British government, opened in 1852 by Queen Victoria. They named the tower at the far end with the flagpole, the Victoria Tower. They fly a flag from that tower, the Union flag, which they say is the largest Union flag flown from a flagpole in Great Britain. They claim it's the size of a tennis court, which is hard to believe from down here. But I don't think the politicians would lie, it must be true. Perhaps I'm naive. The best thing about that statement, it doesn't matter what country you come from, that'll translate back to you.
Yeah.
You can hear the bells, right on cue. Now those bells we heard are called the Westminster chimes. There's 4 small bells played in a sequence, played every 15 minutes. The bell, of course, is Big Ben, 13.5 ton. It chimes on the hour and the hour only. Big Ben's the bell. Now we all call the tower Big Ben, but that's the Great Clock of Westminster, or the Elizabeth Tower. As I say, Big Ben's the bell. Named after a man called Sir Benjamin Hall. He was the Commissioner of Works at the time the bell was hung. So Benjamin Hall was in charge, they named the bell after him. So when you go back home to your hometown, wherever in the world that may be, you'll tell your friends you've been to London, and I'm sure they will ask you, did you see Big Ben? And now you tell them no. Nobody can see Big Ben, you can only hear it. Explain that story to them, and they'll wish that they never asked you.
Yes.
They're glad I told you. And ladies and gentlemen, we are here. We have Westminster Pier over on the left. When it's safe for us to do so, we'll cross the river and we'll make our way alongside Westminster Pier. Brings us to the end of the journey, and very sadly, the end of the commentary. All together now. Oh, but don't sound too sad. There is a few things to mention. First of all, most importantly, is safety. Take your pictures now, that's what you're here for. Then return to your seats, stay in your seats until we're safe. In case we bump on the pier, we don't want to see anybody falling over. Yes. Take a good look around you. Make sure you've got all of your personal belongings with you. You will be surprised how many people leave their children on the boat. Don't do that. And mine just stayed again. And I'd like to thank you all very much for your kind commentary today, especially anybody who doesn't have English as a first language. I know it can be a difficult country listening to someone go on about who knows what. Your patience is appreciated. And I'm sure you'll understand it is difficult for me standing here in front of people you've only just met, making things up, hoping they don't notice. That's what I've been doing. But joking aside, I said at the beginning, I'm a captain here on the river, a Thames waterman. To become a Thames waterman, we all serve the minimum of a 5-year apprenticeship. Most of us are apprenticed to our fathers. I'm the 6th generation of Thames watermen in my family. It's an old traditional company. We're very proud of our history and passionate about the Thames. We've got local knowledge. We're more than happy to share our knowledge with you, tell you a few jokes, and hopefully we can make your trip memorable and more enjoyable. But as I said, that's not our job. We don't get paid. We do that voluntary. As that is the case, we've got an old tradition on the Thames. If you have understood and enjoyed the few words, you'd like to show a token of appreciation, then you are welcome to. I'll be stood at the gate and I'll have the old ship's champagne bucket. And if you want to drop a couple of bob in our old bucket, you are more than welcome. Not everybody knows what a couple of bob is, so for your convenience, willing to accept all major credit cards, blank cheques, and joking aside, anything you put in the bucket won't go to waste. Far from it. It helps us in the vast research that we carry out in a place called the pub every evening for your benefit, ladies and gentlemen. But joking aside, have you had a good time? Have you enjoyed yourself? Thanks for coming. Enjoy the rest of your stay. Thank you.
Well done, thank you.